Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Small Business Survival Conversations podcast, the podcast where we keep it real about highs and the lows and everything between when you're building something from the ground up. Today's episode is very special because I'm joined by two of my closest friends, people I've walked alongside for years as we've all built our businesses, faced setbacks, and celebrated wins. So here we are with my friends Quasan Shaw and Clinton Smith. Hello, guys.
Hey Anna, how you doing?
Hello, Miss Anna. How you
Hello.
doing?
So today we're going to have just conversation about how the businesses should get ready for the upcoming 2026. So saying that, why don't we start with the question, what is one thing every business should stop doing in 2026? Who wants to start?
I'll let Clinton start with that one.
Okay, well,
He's more
the first
charismatic.
thing that I the first thing that I would do if I was starting a new business is I would make sure that I would have all my okay, let's back up. What I would stop doing is trying to worry about what happened in 2025 because 2026 is definitely going to be a new year. It's going to be a year where there's probably going to be some movement in the economic circumstance of the nation. And so what I would do is I would start fresh. I would look at things around me and see what is the most boringest business that I could invest in order to be successful. That's what I would do.
It's all about the money. It's all about the money.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
Absolutely.
think definitely one thing to do is definitely stop doing whatever didn't work in 2025 that hindered your business and stuff like that. I do agree with Clinton that I think there's going to be some economic uncertainty for 2026. But with that, I think you're going to be tempted to just start jumping and chasing the latest fad of stuff that's going on. But I think, definitely for 2026, I think this is a time where you go back and you revisit your core values, your core mission, find out like why did you go into business in the first place and what issues or problems are you looking to solve, and kind of just double down on your core mission and your audience and really just build upon that.
Well, I just want to add to this conversation here that I want you to start thinking not how to do things, but who will do it for you. A lot of times,
Yep.
small business owners, we are like, oh, okay, I need to do this. Let me learn how to do it. But if you're not expert in this particular part, why don't you delegate? Hire an accountant. Or if you want to do some, let's say, social media exposure, hire an expert and delegate that. You'll be more effective when you focus and continue building what you're expert in because people pay for your expertise, not that you will be learning a new skill set and try to delegate. So think about who, not how. So that's what I'm thinking in 2026 to be kind of a
Yeah, I think you could combine that too, and with the who and the how, by looking at like what sort of like automation I could do or AI resources that you could do.
That's
I mean,
correct.
you look at like Suno, you look at SoundHound and some of the other stuff out there where if you start to understand those, not necessarily master those, but if you understand how to make those work, you can do your social media. You could automate that, do like a post every day or a post every hour or something. If you're really trying to get that get your business out there, you could look at doing like with different apps, and you can do it in like different languages and stuff like that. You could do basically you can have like your own personal assistant, and you can have your own marketing team in house by looking at how can you automate certain things, to free up your time, because kind of like Clinton was said, it's like with the money, but also not necessarily not the money, because I think we're all interested in like time, like how do we have more time for ourselves and how do we buy back our time? And you can look at doing AI and automation to allow you to have more time with that by also increasing your productivity at the same time.
Yeah. I think automation will be a key for every small business owner in 2026.
Yeah, I don't think it's no longer a choice. I think it's something that, you have to do. I think that it has to be part of your business operations, has to be part of your business plan. You have to look at AI and automation right now. One, to save money and time, but also be more productive with things and also increase your bottom line.
Some businesses, I have to admit that some businesses I spoke with, they're scared to use AI. But I don't think we
I
should
can
be scared. Oh, go ahead,
I
please.
can definitely speak. I can speak to that because, especially if you've been in business for a long time and they don't know, you don't know what you don't know. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, you do have a lot of businesses out there, who are scared for the next step. They've been doing it for so long and they look at it as a hindrance instead of a help. And so you got to be able to open up your mind in order to use other tools because that's where the success is going to be. You have to be with move into the next century or move into the next millennium as far as what tools are out there in order to be successful and grab those tools and run with them.
Well, let me move to another question. I'm sorry, Quaison, did you wanted to add something? I
Well, yeah, because
interrupted you.
I was going to say Clinton just raised a very interesting point because a lot of times in business or why people go into business, it's also because there's a need for something or there's a gap in the market. And Clinton just said something where all of a sudden my brain started clicking, and it's like if you have a majority or you have a segment of the population who is hesitant or resistant to AI and automation. One, because they don't understand it, and it's like something that you're used to when you're in business. You're like, hey, this is the way I've always done it. Same thing. You start looking at, the industrial revolution, the technological revolution, the auto revolution, agricultural revolution, the technological revolution. Now we're in like the automation and AI revolution. And those who understand that, you can create your own job niche, your own like business niche with that, where it's like you can start a consulting company or something that targets, I don't want to say the boomer generation, but like the people who are like, tech adverse or something, right? They just aren't willing to learn this new automation and technology. You could create a company that then goes and produces all the AI automation stuff. You can control their social media, their productivity. You can do a lot of things. You could have a company that specializes in that then has provides services to businesses who don't want to learn AI. And then that just opens up a whole new revenue stream for you.
Yeah. So for those of you who are standing on the sidelines and thinking what type of business I can open, Quaison just gave
Absolutely.
you an idea.
Absolutely. And I want 10% of all your
Of the relatives,
all
yes.
your new clients and stuff. So
Yes,
we gonna call it a franchise fee. There we go.
that's right. That's right. Well, I just wanted to move on to another question about setting realistic goals, because I know sometimes, I mean, a lot of not only business owners, but a lot of people, we have this New Year's resolution coming up again. And after a few days after that, we fail. So, how do we put together realistic goals? And then, if you put some goals, how do you keep them? Clinton, obviously, you start
You
showing
know,
some interest in that particular question.
Absolutely. Because honestly, I look at business like I live by four core qualities. Number one, I have, my spiritual house in order. Number two, I have my um, financial house in order. Number three, I have my mental house in order. And number four, I have my physical house in order. And so when I live by those four core and those are my four core uh, things that I go by. And so, in the same way with business, if you have, as Quason said before, if you have those core principles that you live by, you can't fail. My core principle when I ran business, my core principles was to make sure that, what, and a lot of people are not spiritual, but I am. So I put God first. I was like, what? God blessed me with some of the things that, in order to help me be successful. Number two is I made sure that my financial house was ordered. I made sure that my money, that I had enough money to make sure that bills were paid, to make sure that I ran a good business, to make sure that I had advertising, to make sure I had all those things in place. Number three was mental. Make sure that I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and make sure that I was ready for the grind. That is so important. If you are sitting up there not being able to be ready for the grind, because business is all about grinding, it's all about leveling up, it's all about trying to be successful. And if you're not ready for those things, you're not going to be it. You might as well just go work for somebody. And number four, physically. Physical was make sure that I had to go out and make sure that I had to advertise. I make sure that I had to sit down and talk to people. Make sure that I was presentable. Make sure that I looked okay. Make sure that I looked the part. So when I introduced myself to these stakeholders, then it was like, oh, well, he looks the part. Man, maybe we should hire him. You got to make sure that you have all those core values ready to go. So when you step into that role of being ready to show your business, you're ready to roll and nobody can stop you then. But until you get to that point, fake it until you make it, I guess. That's the way I see it.
Oh, that's a great advice, Clinton. You can't do that. You cannot do that.
Hey, we've all been there though. We've all been there in
Yes,
our
yes.
careers. Yeah. No, I agree. I think setting the goals and stuff, I think, one time management. I mean, I think that's gonna be key. Like Clinton, I take a lot of stuff from Clinton too. I mean, he's been a great mentor, not just a friend, but a great mentor, in business and life, over the years. And, he has an excellent time management schedule. He is meticulous. I don't know if it's the military in him or, the football player, he's just, he's just he compartmentalizes very well. And he's like, oh, I have to do this. As soon as that clock hits, I have to do this now and I have to do that. And I think I've learned a lot from that. And I think, with that time management and sticking to those, you get with your goals and stuff like that, buffering in your time for things like that. I think that's helpful with setting goals, and putting that timeline, but not too much pressure on yourself as well. But I think time management is going to be the key for a lot of people.
Well, for me, I usually, what I do is I will divide my annual goals into, let's say, 90-day sprints, I will call it. Every 90 days, I will revisit. Okay, now, what is usually, I will tell myself, what is the progress I'm making? Not perfection, because, sometimes when you go into this mode of perfection, I, you cannot act properly all the time because life is not perfect. Business is not perfect. In fact, it's very, very messy. But if you have your core alignment, like, I mean, Clinton mentioned, it's like, if you're spiritual, you have all this, he has these 4 quadrants. I don't have 4 quadrants, but I try every day to meditate and exercise and things like that. And every 90 days, I will revisit my goals. Because what's happening is if I build my plan over 90 days and in 90 days I see that I'm failing, guess what? I'm not failing and I'm not assessing at the end of the year. I'm assessing at 90 days. So I can course correct for the next 90 days.
Yeah, I agree.
Knowing you, no, go ahead. Go, Quasan.
I was gonna say, I think people when they say like, "Hey, here's my goal for the year," I mean, that's just too much time, because it's like, oh, I have like 3 months now to get fluff off, and I still got 6 months to
Yes,
recover,
yes,
or
yes.
9 months to recover, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. So I love the fact that it's, you're talking about like in every 90 days,
Mhm.
or even like every company has to like, on the stock exchange, they have to report out every 90 days.
Exactly.
What's your quarterly report? So I think that gives you time to recover because you don't know the market could be really hot at this part. Your industry could be really hot, and then something changes, whether it's a regulation or a new law or something, or even just the economy. So it gives you that time to pivot and shift, to make those corrections.
Clinton, you wanted to say
I
something.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And knowing you, Miss Anna, in that 90 days, knowing you like I do, I can see that you or would like to. I see a lot of compartmentalization with you, where yeah, that 90 days you may be failing, but you definitely will go back to the drawing board and go, okay, or the grease board and go, okay, you know what do I need to do in order to be successful at this particular in order to meet my goal of 90 days. And then if you don't do it in 90 days, you're just like, oh, you quarterly, you'll say, okay, you know what, this quarter wasn't good. What will the next quarter bring? And then that's when you work harder to tweak a couple of things. And that's the to your listeners, that's what I want to emphasize is that it's not about throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It is about tweaking. You could be it could be a situation where there's here where you're going, oh, I missed my goal by one, if you're measuring by numbers, I missed my goal by 15%. What do I need to hit that goal an additional 15%? So that's where I would like, and like I said, knowing you, Miss Anna, that's exactly what you do. You go, okay, you know what, I missed this goal. What can I do in order to tweak this goal so I can make it the next quarter?
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Obviously.
Yeah, no, and if you are the reason why she does not make her goals, Anna will cut you out to make her goals. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Don't, right now, I'm just blushing right now, guys. That's not, I'm not so tough as I
I know, I know.
as I look. But let's talk about, because this podcast is about surviving.
Mhm.
Can you share with us when was some of your toughest time? What helped you survive?
Ooh, man, do I need to man. Well, personal tragedy sometimes is always for me, personal tragedy is always a time where, you have to reevaluate and you have to reassess. And a business that I had, I was going very well. And because of personal loss, I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down because, and I was actually just talking about that. And that's what actually was one of my conversations today with my pastor is I actually sat down and said, you know where could I go and what could I do in order to pivot, in order to be successful, even to be more successful than I was in my business world. And what I did was is I had to take a really, really hard look. And one of the things I came up with was going back to school and getting my doctorate and uh making sure that that goal was met. And I'm doing everything that I can in order to meet that goal. But a lot of times what happens when we do stuff like that or look at stuff like that, it is something that is mainly that we need to look at it take a hard look in the mirror and go, okay, you know what? I was successful. And a lot of us don't want to do that. That's the biggest thing that I can say. A lot of us don't want to do that. Oh, I'm good. I was successful. I'm going to be successful. Sometimes you may not be. So you got to really, really take a hard look at, where you are in your journey, how you're going to be successful when you think that those when you're trying to level up when you think that those times where it's hardest, in my case, what can you do in order to pivot and be even more successful? And that's exactly what I did.
But I think that you do that as a human nature because a lot of times we live our lives because we care about what people are thinking and talking about us. And that should
And
not be
so
the case. And it's like, who we don't, I mean, you should not care how other people assess your success. You're scared sometimes. I mean, you reassessed it and you took, because sometimes it takes a lot of courage to be like, I'm going in a different direction. I pivot to this direction. A lot of times we don't do that because we are thinking that if we take different path, other people will be, I mean, will be judging us.
they'll, they'll look at you as not successful.
That's
That's where
correct.
that's where that's
That's
where I think you're
correct.
going.
Yes, but in my head, this is like a story you're building in your head. And you should not live your life on somebody else's judgment. That's my opinion.
Mhm. And
Ooh,
I will point out, and it's all about your individual journey. What is your journey?
Mhm.
My individual journey was I was successful in business for 20 years. And for me to shut that door was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do. But with that, I had to, because I had to focus on personal loss. So with that being said, I turned around and said, you know what? That's when those four core quadrants come in. Spiritually, I was like, you know what? You got me. You got me. Let's go ahead and do this. And now I that seems like a long lost memory to me because I did rely on my four, as Quasan said, my four core quadrants of what I need to do. I relied on those through the whole situation.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
Well, Q, what about you?
Man, I think I'm gonna pass on this one, so I don't have to go see my therapist after this call. So yeah, dittoed everything you guys said, man.
Well, if you give yourself, or I will say future self advice, what are you going to do in 2026? What will be one thing?
Ah, you know, it's interesting. I was having breakfast yesterday with not really breakfast. We just go to McDonald's on the weekend to hang out, drink Dr. Pepper, and talk. But Michael Brown, Clinton, we were sitting
Absolutely.
there and we were talking, and he was talking about the Snapchat filter, and he was talking about how he took one of himself a long time ago, and he looked how old he was, and he took one of me, and he showed it to me, and it stuck with me all day yesterday, and even this morning I was praying about it and stuff, and he showed me the Snapchat, that picture that he took of me yesterday. It was like, gray beard, aging, probably 30 years from now. And he said, this is the person that you have to be committed to. This is the person that you are loyal to. This dude here is counting on you to make the right decisions for him in that time frame. And I was like, dang, that's it was deep, So it just, it got me to thinking about goals and stuff like that. And I think, what are you going to do, so obviously it's, taking care of yourself and, like your four quadrants, like Clinton was talking about, your spiritual goals, your physical goals, and all those other things, where it just kind of comes into play. And I think, business and, there's still, that person that, when you look in the mirror, you have to be satisfied with that person that you look in the mirror, all this, all of us, we have kids and stuff. And, we are dedicated to helping our kids be the best they could be, but a lot of times we neglect ourselves, and we still, there's times where I look in the mirror and I still see 17-year-old Quasan looking back at me and all of his dreams and goals and hopes, and I can't forget about that dude, and what he went through to get to where I am today, and to get to where I need to be in the future. So I think for me, it's just looking at 2026 and setting goals and stuff like that is, not giving up on my dreams and what I need to do to get those dreams to be accomplished.
Oh, yes. Well, faith, I think that faith, no matter which faith you are, just if you lean on your faith, sometimes when you're going through tough times, it clears the way. And if you have your core values, every single time I will make a judgment call, I go back and is it aligned with, because number one is integrity. Is it in line with some of your core values? If it's in line with your core values, it's easy to make a decision and it's easy to say yes or no. But especially again, when you go through tough times, lean on your faith. And Clinton, you said it, and Quason, you said it too. So it helps you. It helps you go, and especially when you're in this dark place. What was the wording? You're going through a tunnel, just keep going. You will end up in the sun, because if you don't
Yeah,
end up
eventually
in
you'll
the
see the
sun,
light.
yeah, exactly. You'll see the light. Exactly. That's the way it goes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
No, I,
from a
I think, like you said, though, you know, I think mentorship, I'm really big on mentorships, and finding like those mentors who can sit down with you and say, hey, here's the direction that you want to go. and help you set up that track along the way. Whether it be your mentor or you have like your advisory group, and stuff. Because I know you and Clinton, I talk to you guys all the time, and I'm like, here's what I'm seeing. What do you guys see? And point me back in the right direction. And I'm so thankful, for the past 25 years of you guys' friendship and direction of stuff, and it's just been, things like that. But I also think, learning from those moments, reframing those setbacks and stuff like that. How do you learn from those and change your mindset? I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things is our mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
We talk ourselves out of a lot of things. I've been working on mindset for years now, and I still have a way to go. I'm not where I want to be, but I am, so much farther along than where I started.
Yeah,
It was
engagement.
just
Go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead, Anna. I'm sorry.
No,
Go
no, no.
ahead.
I
I
just,
didn't
I
mean to cut
just,
you off.
I just wanted to add that, you rely on our own community, like our friendship. It's like, we'll text each other. Hey, did you hear from Quasan? Did you hear from Clinton? Oh, I did. No, he's in a bad spot right now. Then jump in. Let's kind of encourage him or just talk to him.
And
So,
to me, that's very important that I have known you guys as long as I have, and you guys have seen it. You guys seen the good, bad, and the ugly. And for me, but good friends will not judge you, and they understand that, you know what, hey, in business, we all go through those types of avenues. We are sometimes, as my pastor said today, sometimes we're at the top of the mountain, sometimes we're in that valley. And unfortunately, that's with everybody. So again, we can go back to and talk to about many things that can help you. One of the big things that I've and have welcomed with your friend with my friends here is, number one, we're a small group. Number two is that we have been able to carry this friendship for, like Quason said, for the past 25 years. And we do rely on each other when it comes to being able to step into a situation where, hey, I need you. Okay, well, dude, give me a call. We'll discuss. We'll walk through it. We'll walk through the fire with you together. And that is really, really a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, you don't have a lot of business people like that because it's all about, with a lot of business people, unfortunately, it's all about competition.
Yeah.
And yes, being competitive is good. However, you got to make sure that when you're competitive, you're not cutting anybody else who could help you, your mentors, at the knees.
mhm.
You don't, that piece of it you don't want. And so, like I said, I have this group, and I have a lot of spiritual mentors. I have a lot of individuals who I attend church with, who we sit down and have conversations, have wonderful conversations. And these conversations are based on, how can I be better as a man? And I love that because it's iron sharpens iron. And so that's where I am at, in my life and my journey. And I can tell you this, it has definitely made me a much better man. Where, again, when you have these conversations, especially in business, you're gonna have that friend who tell you, you know what, that's not a good dude, that's not a good move. What are you doing? That's not where you should be at. What are you doing? And don't take it as, being, they're angry. They take it as, hey, you know what? Maybe I should take a really, really good look at what I am doing and growing and being an individual who they see. When you're not in the fire, in the middle of the fire, you can't see it. Once you step out of the fire and listening to people who are going to help guide you, that is when you can really, really thrive. So if I can give anybody out there any advice, make sure that you surround yourself with people who are only interested in your journey to be successful.
Wow, yes, I totally agree with both of you, especially mentorship. As you know,
Yeah.
I'm the creator of the mentor protege program. I love mentors. They helped you. Yes, yes. They helped you a lot. And friends and community. Stay engaged because a lot of times when business owners get isolated, that's when they get in trouble because we start building this stories again in our minds, and usually the mind, they can play tricks on us. So engage often with friends, create a community, find a mentor to give you a different perspective. So that's very, very deep. And at the end, do you want to finish with anything for us, Quasan, Clinton? Any
I
last
think
advice?
kind of like Clint was talking about with his core values and stuff. I think for me, a lot of times I get just kind of going back on things. I get in my own head and I get in my own way. I overanalyze stuff way too much. And I think all of a sudden it was like I remembered this process. It was the IPDE. This is something that my driver's ed teacher taught us back in the days in Milwaukee Public Schools. And the IPDE stands for identify, predict, decide, execute. He told us that in driver's ed. And little did he know, he was just teaching us how to drive, but little did he know this phrase will stick with me and revisit for, many, many years later. And he talked about when you're on the road, he's like, identify what's happening out there, predict what's going to happen, make a decision about what you're going to do because of what's going on out there, and then execute. And as he was talking about, like when you're driving, you identify, and there's somebody like swerving out there. You predict that they're going to come into your lane. You make a decision that, okay, I'm going to brake now to avoid hitting this person. And he said you have to execute that decision. So you don't. It's just that split time. And I found that over the last couple of years, that's helped me with my decision making. That I don't overanalyze everything. I do my initial analysis of stuff, and then I identify what's happening. I make a prediction as to what's going to happen. I make a decision as to how I'm going to handle that prediction, and then I execute the decision that I made, and I do it right then and there. So it's no longer like, oh, I have to sleep on this, or wait 2 weeks or wait 90 days or something like that. Because you guys know me, I would overanalyze everything, and I think that's just those little words kind of stuck with me. So for those folks out there who are thinking of going into business or in business and you are over analyzing everything, stop. Just you've read enough books, you've done enough seminars, you've gone to enough training. Now it's just time to go out there and just make that decision and execute.
That's an excellent, excellent advice. Yes. A lot of people are paralyzed because they
Oh,
want to make it
absolutely.
perfect. No, you cannot wait.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah,
start doing it and
Yes.
you can change course.
yeah, absolutely.
And Clinton,
Jump in.
what is your advice for our listeners?
Don't be afraid. Fear is the biggest killer of business. Don't be afraid. Do what you need to do in order to be successful. I mean, honestly, I remember starting my business. My business started with $5,000 in a prayer, and I borrowed the $5,000 from my father-in-law.
Yeah.
So, don't be afraid. Um, do what you need to do in order to look at the people. One of the biggest things that I did is I looked at the people around me. Who's doing business? When I would never forget the day that I met the both of you, and looking at this success that the people in that room, that I was just like, man, and here's me standing there looking around going, do I really have what it takes in order to be successful? And yes, and that's the second that I said, absolutely. So let's do what we need to do in order to be successful. And so internally, that's when I made the decision. Clinton, step it up, get your game together, look at it, people, follow the mentors, look at people what they're doing in order to be successful. And I follow that same blueprint to this day, where you look at, I mean, I pattern my investment. I'll put it out there. I pattern my investment strategies after Warren Buffett. I pattern my real estate after Dos Los. There's always somebody to pattern yourself after.
Mhm.
I mean, and you may not do everything 100%, but at least they have given you a blueprint. My positivity, Tony Robbins. You really, really have to look at where do you want to go? How do you want to do this? And what I have found out is when you have the desire, the plan, and the knowledge base in order to do it, there ain't nothing else that you can't do.
And just lean on your faith when you have tough times. That's one thing you have to always do, because no matter how good the plan is, no matter what you're going through, you will have tough times. And it's like every time you have a tough time, surround yourself with friends, lean on your faith, and make sure you break these annual goals in 90 days. That's pretty much my advice for you. So, Business Warriors, is you heard that you can do it. Just don't stand on the sidelines. Just start your business or make more customer calls and grow your business. So that's pretty much our podcast today, Small Business Survival Conversations. My friends and I have learned on each other through every season, and we want you to know your community matters, your effort matters, and your business deserves to thrive. Thank you.